yet another edition of hippoBrain, where we have long-form conversations, hippo-sized conversations, with hippo-sized brains. My guest today is a person who's deeply passionate about financial education, building content and community. So Karthik, welcome to hippoBrain, Karthik.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. Thank you so much.
And
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for your time. And Jaimit, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Rajesh. I'm pretty much extremely happy and enthusiastic that Karthik is with us. Now, I'll just give you a little bit of a background over here. Is that Karthik and me were on other sides of the fence, and we were practically at war with each other, but we never met. He was at Zerodha, and I was with a with a publicly listed broking house, and I got my backside whipped by by the kind of work that these guys put in. And I've been a fan ever since. I've been following them for 5, 6 years now. And I'm looking at them. They seem to be extremely interested in what the consumer really wants, extremely interested in trying to understand how do we try and solve for a consumer. And one of the things that I've been trying to champion for last, I don't know, 10 odd years was the ability to give good, relevant content. When I saw Zerodha, I saw Zerodha's content and the amount of stuff that they put in as one of the key pillars. If I dare say, if you talk about really cheap or free brokerage, if you talk about good UI UX, if you talk about all the stuff that they do, the ease and the simplicity, to my mind, content stands there and is a shining example of how it stands as one more pillar for you to give your services to your customers.
And let me tell you some of the stats which are absolutely astounding. The portal that he has set up gets 85 to 90,000 page views a day. The app that Karthik Rangappa runs has over 1 million downloads. There are 100,000 queries which have been answered by Karthik, his team, and the community. And it's phenomenal. I mean, this kind of content building is unprecedented in India, and it's one of the big reasons for Zerodha's success.
And the man behind it, I managed to chase down through different content, through different contacts. And we have with us Karthik Rangappa. Today, for some of you, you may realize it's going to be a fanboy moment for me. But I'm not going to leave Karthik till I understand a lot more secrets behind the way he's managed to turn Zerodha's 10 years back, a dodgy old site, into a vibrant community to understand a lot of stuff. In fact, when we used to hire people, I used to tell them, you want to understand something, just understand the stock market, go to Zerodha, understand the entire varsity section, and then come to me, and then we'll discuss what we have to do. Welcome to our show, Karthik. And I would want to start with the very first question. Content in financial services was bharke. People used to give lots and lots of content. It was good for SEO. I used to do it. Everybody used to do it. But the way you guys did it in a simple, long format content, almost like a university, varsity is the right name for it. How did you chance upon this, and why this kind of content for something as boring as stockbroking?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for the generous introduction, Jaimit. So, and sincere apologies for putting you through that spot. It was unintended, right? But yeah. Coming back to your question. So there were two things, Jaimit, when we decided to set up Varsity, right? So the first thing that we thought about was where is the content available, right? Now, content was, like you mentioned, was abundantly available. But the only problem with the content that was available back then was it was all scattered, right? If you, let's say, for example, you wanted to study about futures trading. So there would be one article which would talk to you about what is futures on a particular site. Then you would have to, search your way through on the internet to find another spot, another, website where you had to find out how futures were settled, right? And everyone were trying to, cater to the attention span of the user, right? You want content to be delivered in within a 2-minute read, within a 2-minute video. But unfortunately, topics related to finance, complex topics, especially like futures, options, fundamental analysis, it cannot be compressed within 2 minutes. There is a certain amount of information the user needs to know, and he needs to know. Only when he does that, you would consider that his knowledge is from 0 to, let's say, 0.6 on a scale of 10, right? So he will go to 10 only on actually experimenting whatever he's learned, in the market. But as far as content goes, that's how much you can scale, right? And this has to be done in a long form format, right? When you're trying to, for example, imagine if you were to try teaching a person how to do a surgery in a 2-minute video. Would that make sense? Absolutely not. So that was the thought behind, and we were keen on doing. We didn't know what form this would take, long form, short form. We never thought about the form. The only thing that we thought about was how do we convey all these things in a meaningful way, irrespective of the size it would take up. So it so happened that almost all the articles are long form articles, and I think that makes sense, because you can do a lot more with when space is not really a constraint.
But Karthik, this, you're right, it goes against the grain of everything anybody would have spoken about on content.
Yeah,
Saying that it has to be short, it has to be pithy, it has to deliver the message, and people are in an attention deficit world.
true.
Your experiences are completely opposite to this. People have been able to read a lot of this. If I, as a competitor, I used to track the amount of time spent on your website as a metric was
True.
significantly, to my mind, 10 times greater than most others.
Yeah.
What do you think actually happened, and what were the challenges in this? Because long form is still not easy.
True.
Like we've been realizing with hippoBrain, we also believe that 1 hour is long. People come back and say, wow, that's a lot of content you're putting out. But it's not easy. People still want shorter. How do you balance this?
I think what really helps from my experience is the moment you start talking about things in a very layman form, right? So you need to, at least we made the assumption that the guy who's reading has zero information on what he's reading, and this is the first time he's exposed to a topic like this. So when you start with a clean state like that, every line that you write, if it is trying to convey meaningful information, that keeps a person engaged, right? So every paragraph that he would read, he should feel, okay, wow, I've learned this, I didn't know this, so this is interesting, what next, right? So if you create content keeping such a perspective in mind, then I think the end product is bound to be an engaging article, right? So probably this is what has helped us, because each and every article that is being posted on Varsity is well thought through, right? So you first of all place the person on a clean state. You assume he doesn't know anything, he or she wouldn't know anything, and dump down all the content, right? So forget about all the jargons, forget about all the complex financial theories the so-called high priests of finance talk about. So talk about it like the way you're explaining it to your mother or your someone in your family, with a lot of patience. And when you do that, uh, I think what happens is the article turns out to be engaging, and person would be engrossed, and that eventually results in a higher time spent on the website and all those other metrics.
And Karthik, I mean, just to give some numbers, I mean, you have 12 to 13 modules on the site. There are about 20 to 30 articles. So it's
In,
almost like a 300 plus articles now available in English and Hindi.
right.
And a lot of the initial writing, I think, was pretty much entirely done by you.
Yeah.
And talk us through that. How see, writing this kind of long form in a consistent basis is like many, many books put together. And
True.
it cannot happen unless you have a deep sort of passion
Yeah.
for the subject. So, two parts to the question: how did you sort of develop this passion for finance, and how did you then go about taking this and the discipline of making it very simple in writing and communicating it to a larger audience?
I think one common ground with all of us here at Zerodha is we've all been attracted and fascinated with the stock markets. We continue to be fascinated with the stock markets, capital markets in India, not just from now, but I think the core team has a collective experience of roughly about 15, 16 years minimum, each one of them. So I think Nitin has close to about 17 years. And what keeps us going is the fact that we can look at the markets every day and still get fascinated with whatever is happening, right? So that's where the passion stems from, right? It's been about 15 odd years now, and not a single day till today have I been bored to see what's happening in the market. So every day is a new day, and there's so much to learn, right? So the passion thing uh, is an ongoing affair, right? So and the good thing about stock markets is whatever you learn, you can very easily validate, and things that you can validate quickly, uh, your passion tends to become stronger, right? So at least from our experience, so the passion part was always there. Uh, and the thing is, your second question on how did we make this so simple to readers? I think that's a little bit from my own personal experience. I've been a very bad student, right, throughout my life. I've struggled to learn things very easily, right from my engineering to postgraduate degrees. So I've always, if there was someone who could understand a concept within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I would take 3 4 days to understand that. So I've been a very slow learner. I've been a very slow, been a rather subpar, a bad student per se. So when I wanted to put up content, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I assumed everyone's like me. Everyone takes time to understand. Nobody, very few people can understand things quickly. Right. So I made that assumption, and I tried to explain things like the way I would explain to myself, right? So which and probably that that also explains why the long form, right? So yeah, so I've kept these two things in perspective and tried to churn out the articles, and probably the simplicity comes based on my academic experience.
So, Karthik, when did we start Varsity?
November 4th, 2014 was when we announced to the world. But work had started in on sometime around May 2014.
And did you build it organically, article by article, or did you take a big
Yeah,
thing and you said, now it's live?
so we built it article by article. So as I mentioned, we started in May 2014. So from May to about November, I took time to build about 2 modules, right, which is the basics of stock market and technical analysis. And then I was halfway through the third module, and we decided it's time to go live. And we announced to the world saying that, look, there's a website like this, a portal like this, from where you can start learning about various topics related to market. So we didn't want to put out a site which had very few articles, because we thought that the person may lose interest if he doesn't see a good amount of content. So there was some preparation time, and then we introduced it to the world. But yeah, so each module was built article by article.
And in 2015 is the inflection point of Zerodha, roughly?
Yeah, 2015, 2016. So all these,
The
yeah, yeah,
So you guys just came just a little before, and Zerodha's zero brokerage inflection point happened at that point
correct,
of
correct.
time.
True,
And
true, true.
did Varsity take off along with it, or did it take off slower? What do you see
Our
about your content?
Yeah, so no, my the articles, Varsity as a product, it has always had a steady increase in viewership. It didn't happen overnight, although the day we launched, something spectacular happened. A colleague of mine, Satyajit Sarangi, so he put up this link on Hacker News saying that look, there's a free resource to learn technical analysis. So this was on November 4th itself, the day we launched, and it's very difficult to get something sticky on the homepage of Hacker News. If a link stays there for about half an hour or so, it's considered commendable. But this one stayed for 4 hours, and that gave us close to about 20,000 users from different parts of the world, right? So that was a phenomenal start to Varsity, and from then on, we've had a steady growth in terms of viewership, in terms of page views, and all the other metrics. But what really helped Varsity was actually this lockdown, right? So the numbers just tripled this year. Yeah, so the numbers just tripled and across all metrics. But we've had a steady viewership, steady increase in all the metrics, whatever metrics you want to track.
I think one of the key differentiating factors also is that it's not just the content, but it's also the community that you've managed to create.
True.
100,000 questions that people have which have been answered. So how do you go about that? Because this is everyone's dream, high quality content and then a very engaged audience. It's almost like Quora in that sense. It's where the community now takes it upon itself to sort of add value to what you've created. How did that happen?
So when we decided to, when we were debating about how to put up content, right? So there were two possible paths that we could take. One is an article form. The other one was videos, right? So at that point, we didn't really have the bandwidth to get into video production and the elaborate process. So that wasn't really a path that we would take. Then we decided about the article form of the product, right? And then we realized that you just put up an article and leave it open to people to read. That would be an incomplete product because once, especially with something to do with financial products. So we wanted a place where people could come and ask their queries. And the moment we decided to include a query section, Nitin, the CEO founder of Zerodha, he was very keen. He made it very clear that if we have a place to, users to submit queries, it wouldn't make sense if we, let the user wait for, a day or two to get his answers queries, answers replied to. So it was very clear that we are going to be super active on this particular part, which is the query section, and get back to the users on whatever query they've asked within a matter of few hours. And it's been so from that day till now, and it's going to be like that for a long time that I foresee, right? So the key there is the key to build a community is to ensure that you give back give back your replies, support those comments, discuss with the participants, in a fairly high frequency manner. So without that, I think users are going to lose interest and won't come back to your site. They'll probably go somewhere else to seek their answers.
Karthik, opening up to community, okay? And I've been in multiple boardrooms, I think since 20 years, trying to be the young person now, not so, trying to tell people, open it up, open it up.
Yeah.
And most of the time, two, three queries come up, okay, by
Yeah.
a lot of people. Number one, you are trying to say we will not control who will speak what. I say, yeah. Then they ask, what if they speak bad about us? Then what? And what if competition comes in and talks to my customers on my website? So all these are valid boardroom queries. I leave it up to you because I have miserably failed in trying to answer them.
Yeah.
What is your thinking behind it? How do you mitigate or allow or try and solve for these seemingly insolvable problems?
Yeah, so I think thankfully we don't have a boardroom in Zerodha, so these questions. So they,
If you want great content, demolish the boardroom.
yeah, I think these questions never came up. So in fact, we love it when people talk back, people ask all sorts of questions because that's a place for us to learn. So, and I think one of the reasons for the success of Zerodha today is because we've opened up multiple channels where we can interact with customers and they give valuable feedback, right? And you take those feedback and see how you can improve your product. It could be the trading terminal, it could be your back office, it could be your mobile app, whatever platform. So this I think this people should really embrace. They should open it up, and yeah, you'll get all sorts of junk once in a way, but that's a part of the game. So you can't really avoid that. We've had competition coming in, posting all sorts of things. We politely said no, and moderated such comments. We've had all sorts of spam coming in terms of marketing their own services and other things. So yeah, so you need to clean it up once in a way, but that's just a small part of the entire thing. So largely, you look at it as a place where you can interact with your customers and get active feedback. And just to add to that, Jaimit, so as I mentioned, we've had close to about 100,000 queries asked on this. All of them have been answered without asking the person whether is a customer of Zerodha or not. So we don't really have a login there. So I need not even know who you are, when you post a query. For me, all that matters is your query and the reply that we would give back to you. So we don't want to know who you are. We don't want to know your email ID. We don't want to know your name. We don't want to know your mobile number. We don't even want to know your IP address. You post a query, and if we know the answer, we'll reply back to that.
And Karthik, for the most part, since the start in 2014, it was largely you who was doing the writing, who was doing the answering. And it's only now that you've sort of expanded the team. And of course, the content now is available in Hindi also.
Correct. Yeah.
So how was it? I mean, to be there maintaining this sort of daily discipline day after day
So
for years.
Yeah. Rajesh, I think even today it's just me who was putting up the content on Varsity. But yes, we do have a small team which helps in replying to Hindi queries because my Hindi is terrible. I can't really communicate well in Hindi. So I have a colleague of mine who helps me reply to Hindi queries, and we have a translator who helps us translate content, whatever is written in English to Hindi. Again, we were very picky about choosing a translator because we wanted a translator who's not only good in Hindi but also understands the market. So it took us a bit of time to figure out the right translator, but we did manage to find one. And we have two people developing the mobile app and one person for illustration, right? All the illustrations that you see on the mobile app and Varsity. So this is the team. So this is how many of us. It's a very lean team. It's a tight team, and like any other product, teams at Zerodha.
So you're talking, Karthik, India's largest financial website is all of one VP and two, three, two, three people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And Jaimit, this is exactly how all the products are run within Zerodha, right? So if you look at our mutual fund distribution platform, I think we've got close to about 6,000 crores of mutual fund distributed. There are three people behind it, one developer and three people to support the activity. So back office, something similar. We are coming up with a loan against securities platform, same story, right? One developer, two, three support people, and that's about it. So pretty much all our products are built on similar ethos. Very, very lean teams.
So I know Kailash Nadia, CTO, talks a lot about full stack developers. This is the first time I'm seeing full stack contenters.
Yeah, so So I think the good part about this is if you have the right people who are extremely passionate about what they're doing, they end up owning that piece, right? And once you own that piece, you will do whatever to ensure it's running smoothly and the right things are done, right? So all products are built on the same ethos. We have, I mean, think of them as mini CEOs taking care of that product, right? So that's what is happening here at Zerodha, right? So all these are mini products with one or two people managing the show, and they have complete ownership of that, and they know what is the right thing to do for the customers.
And one another interesting innovation that you've done on Zerodha Varsity is Rupee Tales.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
So Rupee Tales it was an interesting experiment. So I was talking to my daughter. She was 7 years old then, and she was trying to ask, "What is it that I do in life?" Right. So and and of course she knows all my colleagues. So we are like a big family. Everyone knows everyone. So she was trying to figure out what does Nitin do, what does Kailash do, what do you guys do, and she found it very intriguing, and for all the articles and content that I put up out there, I was unable to answer her. I found it really difficult to explain what stock markets are, what saving is, what banking is, what is an insurance. So I found it really tough. And the next day, I was chatting with people here in office, and I told them of this conversation that I had with my daughter. And suddenly, we thought maybe we should come up with a series of books which explains, basics of finance to children, right? And that sparked the interest, and I said, let me give this a shot, right? So we decided on five important topics: savings, banking, insurance, taxation, and the stock markets, of course. So we identified these five elementary basic concepts of finance. And I wrote small little stories, trying to explain these concepts to children. So the entire emphasis is on the story, but if you, the idea was if the kid sits through the story, then the kid will probably know what insurance is at the end of it. So without really directly talking about insurance, just to convey the concept. So, and we were extremely lucky to find this gentleman called Tarun Andrews, who's done brilliant illustration. So very vibrant, very colorful illustration. So that makes the book very engaging, right? And so we printed about 10-15,000 copies. We all of them got sold out, and we've now put this up for free. Anybody can download and read through the stories. We didn't want to charge for the books, but there was a physical, the printing charge, the courier charge. So there was some cost involved. So yeah, we were forced to sell it at a cost. But otherwise, I think knowing Zerodha, we would have probably put this up for free. So
Yeah, that too at zero. Knowing zero.
yeah.
Yeah. So, when you guys are doing the varsity website and it's doing very well,
Yeah.
I was very curious, why would you need one more app? In
Correct.
any case, we have a lot of apps, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
the website runs fairly nice on the mobile. Everything is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the real reason for an app that you saw that
Yeah.
prompted you to say, okay, because I know you guys culturally try and do less.
True.
The kind of UI you guys do and the kind of philosophy that you guys tend to follow seems to be largely frugal. The
True.
app, in my mind, to a layperson, obviously, seems a
Yeah.
little bit of an extravaganza. Can you explain?
Yeah. So there were two reasons for this. One is, see, we saw that there was a lot of adoption for trading on the mobile app, right? Although we have a extremely beautiful browser-based terminal, there's more and more adoption for doing things on your mobile, right? And this was a constant request from our users as well, saying that we want a dedicated app on for Varsity as well. So a colleague of mine came up with this concept of how we can gamify things and you know put up the app, gamify things, and add a lot more elements on an app as opposed to the website, and cater to the younger generation audience, the millennials basically. So we found that idea interesting, and what we've done with the app is we've taken the long form content without compromising on the content itself. We've broken it down into bite-sized pieces, right? So one article is broken it down into 5 cards, and you're sitting in the bus, or you're waiting for a friend of yours. You can swipe through 5 cards, and you're done with an article, right? And we've also broken down the entire module into 3 different chunks called the basic, intermediate, and advanced. And we've also included certificates and quizzes and all those other elements on the app. So that makes which probably would have been a clunky experience on the website, right? And the fact that you can carry Varsity on your phone, and it works beautifully on the app was an incentive for us to attempt this, and it's done fairly well, right?
Certificates. Can you
Yeah.
explain a bit about certificates and why do you think those are interesting?
So okay, for some reason I think Indians love certificates. Right, so
I
everybody
know.
wants a certificate.
I just
Well,
threw
yeah.
away a big file of mine with all my certificates since I was probably not even born.
Yeah, so Indians love certificates. I think, I don't know if it's an Indian thing or a general human behavior. So, but it's a nice way to validate what you've achieved, right? And so we decided to have certificates for Varsity as well. So for each of the modules, and we've made it a little tough to get that certificate. We didn't want anyone and everyone to get the certificate and dilute its value. So we put in a bit of a challenge there. So like I just explained, there are 3 levels within the app. So you have to, and each level is followed by a quiz. So a kind of an academic rigor here. So you need to get a certain amount of mark in each of the quizzes. So all 3 quizzes you need to have cleared with a certain mark. Only then the certificate unlocks. And the certificate itself is a elaborate, 30-40 question time-bound, set of questions. You need to have, at least 70 marks as a cutoff, 70% as a cutoff. So only then you get the certificate. Only then the certificate is issued. So that's how we designed, and to our surprise, especially this year with all the lockdown, we issued close to about 30,000 odd certificates, right? So together in all, from the time you started, I think we have close to about 45,000 certificates. So I think probably that explains, humans and the need to be certified.
I think it's a phenomenal platform that you've created. And I know a lot of people listening would probably, or watching, would probably say that, look, this is a great idea to apply to other verticals, whether it is
Yeah.
sales tech or martech or, different forms. Uh, I can think of applications for marketing technology. And so if there were some do's and don'ts from your learnings over the past 6+ years, that what are how do you go about both on the content side, community side? While you've explained a lot of things, are there some learnings which you have? Are you doing some things maybe differently now versus when you had begun?
No, our philosophy has remained the same, Rajesh, from the day we started till today. The philosophy has been that you see, each domain has several different topics that make up the domain. For example, if you're talking about the stock markets, then there is fundamental analysis, there's technical analysis, there's futures, there's options and risk management and whatnot, right? So these are all subtopics within the domain. So you need to ensure that you pick a subtopic and break it down and sequence the whole content in a very user friendly and in a layman term, right? So the simplification is the key, and and it's extremely important to let the user visualize the sequence in which he's learning, right? So that you lay down a learning path and say these are the things that you will learn. This is where you start, and this is where you have to go through. This is the path. So laying down that path is extremely important. Putting up content on a regular basis extremely important. So and if the users see that there is no activity, then they're going to forget about your portal. They are not going to come back to learn more. So putting up regular content is extremely important. Being making sure that you respect each and every query without really judging the person is extremely important again. So no question is bad or good. So you treat all of them with the same respect, and you reply to those queries. And yeah, I think these are, and most importantly, you need to have a passion for this, right? So it's best if the entire thing is managed by one or two people, because the more people you have, the style in which the content is presented may change, and which may not be a great thing for the readers, right? So if it is just one or two people managing, then there is a certain language, there is a certain connect that will get established, and managing the whole piece and giving it a very personal touch is easier, right? So and people should know that there is a human behind this and not really machine generated articles and replies.
Great advice. And
Yeah.
so, which brings me to one key question. Uh, how did you fall in love with the markets?
I think anybody who falls in love with the markets, I probably start with the same intention of which is to make quick money. Right? So almost everyone I've spoken to, they get into markets thinking that it's very easy to make money, very easy to double your money, and you come with all those grand plans, but the grand master, that's the market itself, has different plans for you. So then you need to start questioning yourself and start figuring out why things have gone wrong. And the more you learn, the more you try to the more dimensions open up within the markets, and if you're really passionate, you can continue the journey and seek different answers. So I'm on that path for over 15 years. I'm still learning. I'm still extremely fascinated with the markets, although that intention of making quick money has gone. So I no longer look for such things because I know it is not possible. And yeah, so that was the trigger, but that's no longer the trigger now. The fact that I can learn new things and help several thousands of them understand markets in a similar way, that keeps me going.
Yeah, actually, I, I got so many questions in my head right now, and I can see the blueprint of what I explained earlier. How did I get my backside so red? Yeah, I think in many ways, a kind of a monk-like approach to trying to solve this, saying that keeping the consumer first and trying to solve what he does next. But sometimes it does gets, and I'm tempted to ask this question and prove my stupidity when I ask this question that says, "Ki, certain pieces of content or certain sections seem to do better than others. A, do you follow that? Do you understand why? And B, again, and this is my stupidity talking and typical marketer, if people tend to like certain things, let's do more of that versus trying to still do what is right. So sometimes there is a dichotomy,
Yeah.
there is a choice between the two, and most marketers love that data, but that data allows you to also do more of the same. And do you have these temptations? Do you block these temptations? Do you look at the data? Do you actually succumb to these? Do they actually help? I want to understand some of that.
First of all, apart from the broad metrics that I shared with you guys, we don't track any other metrics on Varsity, right? So I don't I don't look at which article is doing better and which one is not. For me, all those articles are my babies, and I love them all with the same, in the same amount. So I don't differentiate with between articles, and therefore I don't track any of those metrics. So nor is there any pressure from anyone else in the company saying that why don't you track metrics and tell me which one's doing the more better, and we'll try and develop more content on that area. There's zero pressure in that way, right? So we don't track that, and I. But however, having said that, I know that certain modules within Varsity have done much better than the other modules, because these are topics that market participants love, right? So that's what makes them think that uh, it will unlock the potential of making a quick buck in the market. So, yeah, such articles, such topics tend to do well, but we put it up out there because it's a core part. It's a very integral part of the stock markets, and you cannot have a portal without these articles in place. So for that reason, we put up. But yeah, but we give equal importance to each and every topic related to markets, and we don't really differentiate between modules or articles.
Karthik, when you look ahead, I'm sure now the temptation would be perhaps to make videos, probably more languages, etc. So, what's the
Yeah,
thinking going forward? You've got the fantastic foundation,
yeah,
but
yeah,
India is, of course, people are coming in from all places in India,
yeah,
other
correct, yeah,
languages.
yeah.
So,
So
people who can't probably even don't want to read so much and maybe more
true,
visual.
yeah.
How do you think of it?
So uh, okay, so as far as languages is concerned, it really depends on the translator. Uh, like I mentioned, we were lucky enough to find a good translator to translate English to Hindi. If we do manage to get a passionate translator who not only knows the language well but also understand markets, we may consider other languages. But that's not a priority as of now, because we've got English and Hindi, which covers a lot of audience in India. There is a huge amount of requests for videos that's coming in, but then we are right now at a point where we are thinking about the best way to make this video. uh, I don't know if this can be a long form video, because it's against a lot of perceptions that long form video doesn't work. So trying to figure out the best way to do this. Uh, Having said that, I've got a fair bit of structure for the video content. I'm working on it, but probably sometime next year we will consider producing these videos as well. We are talking to partners, talking to people who can do this for us. And next year probably we will have video content for Varsity, not for everything, but for key topics. So I'm really excited about that, and that's something I look forward to in 2021 actually.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Videos tend to allow somebody to communicate with far more passion in some
True,
sense.
true, true, true.
So yeah, even we used to see a lot of demand for some of the videos that we were
Yeah,
creating, and
yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. So no matter, you also have a podcast, right?
We have a Zerodha Educate podcast. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
How is that doing? How is that? Do you think that's
It's
picking
it's
up?
doing it's doing fairly well. What we've done there is we don't really produce podcasts like the way we are doing right now. These are all webinars that we've done in the past with prominent people from the industry, and we've stripped off the video and converted that to a audio file, right? So, and put it out there as podcast. Although we are focusing on exclusive podcasts of late, it's done fairly okay. I think we need to put in a lot more efforts there to make it more and distribute it well. So probably next year that will happen as well.
And just a little off track, Rain Matter, as a part of Zero, has also invested in Finshots.
That's right. Yeah.
Correct. And Finshots
Finshot.
is doing some really
Oh,
good
those
work
guys
as
are
well.
those guys are doing extremely well. I love those guys. The kind of content they put up, extremely beautiful, and so much love comes from different quarters of the country, thanking Finshots for whatever content they put. So and yeah, so Finshots is doing some really cool work.
Yeah, I know. And when I'll be very honest, when I first took it up, I thought, yeah, thoda sa snackable in India. We are trying to look at it, and is it so good? And I was one of the skeptical subscribers
Yeah, yeah,
in many ways, but it has pretty
yeah,
much blown me away. Is
yeah.
there, do you have any role over there? Do you speak? Do you
No,
guide? Or is it
no,
on their
no.
own? And
It's
what is
they're
it that
there.
is making them tick and
Yeah,
you guys?
they're completely on their own. We've invested a small amount of money in Finshots, and but they don't talk to us. We don't expect them to talk to us about what sort of content they put up. So those guys are very passionate, and it's driven by a couple of them on the content side, and they know what's best for their customers, and they just do that. So but initially, before we invested, we opened a Varsity app for them where they would put out content on in their name as screenshots on Varsity app. So Varsity app has this section called the wall where you could post short articles, short content, and that gets pushed as a notification. So we got extremely good response for their articles, and that was one of the deciding factors for before we took the decision to invest in them, and it's done phenomenally well.
Yeah, it has,
Yeah,
and rightly so, and proudly so.
yeah,
I would say, finally, good content in finance that I and
true.
my daughter, who's 18, both
Yeah,
read together, and that's
nice.
pretty much
Yeah,
rare, no?
nice. I know.
So, what is the next frontier? You said video, but is
Correct.
there
Yeah,
is there some next frontier for varsity? Is there more temptation to put off more topical content? Because at
yeah,
every point of time, somebody wants to understand what is
correct.
happening
Yeah,
right now. Like for
correct.
example, right now, for some reason, the Nifty is at their all-time high, and I don't think any
Yeah,
one of us are able to really decipher
yeah,
it. So the temptation to put more and more topical versus more and more classical,
yeah.
how do you balance these two?
I think what we will continue to do is put out these classical content because the original idea for Varsity was and is to have one portal where all the content related to markets are available to the reader, right? So we've covered close to about 11 different topics, and I think there are at least four more that needs to go in. So it's not done till those topics are covered, right? So once that is established, maybe that's the time where we will have to take a call on what is the next step for Varsity. But as of today, it's just about putting up more content, the classical content, and help our audience, be a better market participant.
One question, I think this is perhaps taking it a little more wider, is that worldwide, and it's not just in India, but even in the US, we've seen a lot of people, sort of newcomers. Like you said, your own traffic is up substantially,
Yeah,
both on the trading side and on the varsity side. A lot of new people entering the market.
right.
Of course, a lot of them with the hope that they'll double their money quickly.
True, true.
Now, if they were, if you had to give advice, and if you had to direct them to which sections of varsity they should begin with to get a better understanding. So it's, otherwise if there's a little downtrend, you get burned and then you sort of go away, and that's not
True.
the right thing to do. You got to think of it from a long-term investing approach.
Yeah, yeah.
A, what would be your advice, and B, what would be the starting modules on varsity that they
Yeah.
could actually look at?
Right. So see if the person knows really nothing about markets and he is starting on a clean slate, then I would highly recommend module number 1, which is basics of stock market, which will explain everything that you need to know before you could even punch in your first transaction, right? Right from as basic as who the stock market, who a stockbroker is, who the regulators are, how are stocks settled, what is the clearing and settlement procedure, what is a trading terminal, what is a dividend, what is a bonus, things like that, right? So all those topics are covered in the first module. I would suggest a person start from that very module and get a basic understanding of the ecosystem of the stock markets, right? So once you're comfortable with that, there are two directions you can take. You can try to be an investor where you buy and hold stocks for a slightly longer term perspective. I would highly recommend that approach to markets. After all the things that I've experienced, I think that's what makes sense. And if that's of interest, then learning something like the fundamental analysis module will help. But if the person is more inclined towards active trading, where you would want to take up positions and hold it for a few days and sell it off and try to make a profit, then that's a different world altogether. That would involve him. That would require him or her to read about technical analysis, futures, and options. But my sincere advice: these are advanced, financial instruments, not easy to learn. But if you do manage to learn, it can be a good, instrument to deal with. But it takes time, and the loss of capital when dealing with these instruments is very high. So you need to exercise extreme amount of caution, right? But yeah, active trading is what interests you, then that's the world you need to enter.
It's interesting what you're saying, Karthik. I think towards the end, and I wish I could have had much more time, but we also want to
Yeah.
keep it at 1 hour, and that also is, I think, stretching imagination of a lot of people. Our first hippoBrain was 1 hour 40 minutes or something. Then we
Wow.
went to 90 minutes. Then we said, okay, thoda sa kaatte hain. Then we said, nahi, 1 hour mein khatam karo. So my last one, and I don't want to let go of this, the Zerodha success story, and a very quick one. We have very little time. Lots has been spoken about it. Lots has been dissected, understood, blah blah, everything. I just wanted to understand one thing, because I tend to believe that you guys all seem to talk in a certain manner. What is the little bit of, is culture the differentiator, and is there an angle to this?
I I think we all have somewhat similar backgrounds, and we are all good, good friends. We have our families know each other. I think when you tend to spend so much time with one another, within work, outside work, you all we kind of tend to build the same ethos, and that's probably a reflection of that, right? So the way we speak, the way we do things, it's probably a reflection of that. So yeah.
And I think one sort of question from my side, Karthik, I think that um, this is in a way your sort of third stint at Zerodha.
Right.
I think you started probably 15 years ago,
True.
early
True.
on.
Yeah.
You came back, and
Yeah.
this one looks like for keeps. I mean, in terms of a long
Yeah.
period.
So I keep telling people I'm here till I retire unless I'm kicked out.
So I think in some ways, what the point you just said, the reflection on the team and the culture, I think it's a great way to build a business. And having seen the success of Zerodha, is there any 2 or 3 learnings for sort of entrepreneurs? We are seeing a great boom in entrepreneurship in India. You've seen uh, you've been part of the sort of core team for a long time. You've seen its success right from the early days through.
Yeah.
Any key takeaways for entrepreneurs building out businesses?
I probably am not the right guy to talk about entrepreneurship because I've tried entrepreneurship and I've miserably failed myself. So I've not had great success there. But I see, my team members, Nitin especially, working so hard, and I work with him closely. I see him, very regularly. So one thing that I've learned from him, and he's a very successful entrepreneur himself. So one thing that I see and learn from him is his commitment and passion for work, right? So everybody sees Zerodha as a 10-year-old story, but it's actually, I think, a 30-year-old story now because he's worked at least 20 years before starting Zerodha. So he exactly knew what problems Zerodha is going to solve. He had a plan and he stuck to the plan, right? So and everything else that happened was improvisation based on the market situation, the customer's demands, and requests that came in. But the point is, you need to be passionate. You need to know what you're solving for, and you need to have uh, a real, there has to be a real problem, and you need to, you need to find a way to solve that. So you can't invent problems and try to build a solution around that. And so that won't fly, right? So
Great inputs, and I think it's been a
yeah,
fascinating conversation, Karthik. I think
yeah,
hopefully, I think this conversation will inspire a lot of people to take content and community seriously while building out a business. I think, and you've given a lot of inputs on how to
thanks, Rajesh.
do
It's
things.
it's it's yeah, it's a pleasure and honor to be on the hippoBrain podcast. Thanks for having me over, both of you.
Over to you, Jaimit.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I do believe a lot in content, and I do hope that I have a passion for content. But I think what Karthik today tried to explain to us is how you have to have that passion for that topic, passion for that consumer, and the ability to actually solve his issues. I'll just give you something from my experience, and I don't know, this Hippo Brain interview has practically made me far worthless in the job market while I'm admitting so many of my own shortcomings. Let me tell you a few things. 2010, we did a lot of work on SEO on the broking space, and we were doing pretty reasonably good on a lot of keywords that we researched, this, that, everything. We were ranking very well. Zerodha's Varsity, I dare say, does not do well on SEO. It
We,
does not. No, no, Karthik.
yeah, we've never done any SEO there.
Correct. So
Yeah,
it's done nothing on SEO. It
yeah,
never was on my radar as competition for SEO.
yeah,
It just came up from back. So a lot of us marketers get very excited with these metrics. We get very excited with what is doing well, what is not doing well. We get very excited with these newfangled SEO tools, etc. So I probably understood, and I built a team that understood everything about SEO and finance. And we were probably easily one of the best.
yeah,
But we still got our butts whipped purely because on the other side was somebody who refused to look at it and said, no, let me understand what the consumer wants and forget all of that. I am passionate about this. I
yeah,
am fascinated about this. I want to genuinely impart what I know in a way that helps him. And the
true,
big piece, I will start listening to the consumer and allow him to write what he wants. Because whatever he wants, good or bad, is finally his voice. And
true.
that, if you solve for it,
Yeah,
that's that is everything put together. And
yeah,
we can all take our marketing degrees and our marketing brains and all of it
yeah,
and shove it up somewhere. It's about
yeah,
hippo brains, and we see it again and again. We got the beautiful guy at Hestia, customer growth officer. He's just explaining kuch nahi. I listen to the consumer. We got another guy, Saket, who talks about B2B sales. He says nothing. I write emails well, and that's what makes me awesome. Because when I speak to people, I try and understand what the real problems are. And
true.
that is my big learning today. Forget all the fluff, forget all of it. Make it passionate, make it what Karthik, you said very interestingly. We're all fascinated by the market. We continue to be
Yeah,
fascinated. We probably get passion, but can we bring that fascination to the table? And that is what makes me come every day and will make me do whatever it takes to make the consumer happy. And I think it's been a crazy, beautiful learning experience, Karthik. All of you at Zerodha have taught all of us marketers how to do anything without having any marketing jargon, brain, or anything thrust upon you, or a marketing dollar. You continue to inspire us. Thank you, Karthik.
Thank you so much, and you very beautifully summarized all the conversation we've had. Thanks, and thank you so much for the opportunity to have me.
Thank you, and do subscribe and do like us, and we put up a list of other and other videos that are there. And thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.